the meta harness, in fairness, is a little bit meta, as you point out. I can dive into it and explain my rationale,
Yeah, that would
what
be
I'm
good.
doing. I actually created a plugin for Roof Flow that uses it pretty well. You know, in the simplest terms, it essentially allows you to create your own CLI, kind of like Roof Flow, but for certain repos, applications, verticals, whatever. So it's
Right.
basically creating a harness for specifically for applications that you might want it to wrap around. Like point it at some random repo and say, create me a harness for it, that kind of thing. But it also self evolves, so it figures out the cheapest mechanism. And I can show all this stuff too.
Okay.
It is a little meta. It's literally
Well,
the
and
name.
listen, and if the stuff I'm trying to do isn't helpful or taking us in the right direction, I certainly don't need to spend the energy on it. I'm just trying to make it approachable.
No, the site looks
You
great.
already have smart people using it. I'm trying to get other curious
No,
people to use it.
I've actually no idea who's using it. Zero. I just see a ton of downloads all at once, and I'm like, who are these people? But I don't know who they are. I did the only people I shared it with was in the Agentics tribe. So yesterday. So and that's like 70 people. So I all the other 20,000, who the heck knows? I guess Roof Flow is a very good distribution channel.
Most definitely.
I'm live. We're live streaming, by the way, just as an FYI. I started it just to make sure it works. Um,
Good, thank you.
what else we got here? Oh, I got another. Who's the other Agentix user? Maybe you can label yourself. Someone else. Some. I think Zoom doesn't like two users logged in with the same account anymore. Yesterday it booted me out. All right. If the going once, going twice, I'm gonna boot whoever the other agent is if you don't speak up here in a
Okay,
sec.
I think we see Nick on the user.
Yeah, it's not me. I'm on this myself.
Okay.
You want me to come in just as
Well,
regular Nick?
yesterday we had trouble with two users. Remember, it sort of created a conflict.
Right. I'll come back.
Yeah. I just it'll be like 5 minutes after we started, boots me out kind of thing. One of the two of us. All right.
Yeah,
Anything
it's
else,
going out onto
Martin?
YouTube, no problem.
Yeah, can we, how do we get the live stream to not do February 18th as the title?
The issue is which Restream account you're using. So that February 18th, I looked it up, it doesn't belong to us, and it happens when you restream. So if the last browser you clicked in was a Roove one, not an Agentix, not the
I
agent
just
one.
I just hit live stream. I don't know, like and
I
it
know,
does
but what it
something.
does is it picks up the workspace account that's associated with a Restream account. And so it depends what browser it literally depends on the sequence of clicks in browsers.
Well, today it didn't do that. I did the
Well,
same thing I did
then
yesterday. Same account, same button,
it's the same
different
button. It's
Zoom.
true. It's yes, but it depends on, I presume you're using Chrome profiles.
No.
Okay, so then it gets confused about which session to pick up. You've got it's just random as to whether it's picking up a Rube one because you've got a restream count there, or an agent one because there's a restream there too.
Maybe you can just tell me, or I don't know.
Not
Uh,
in 2 minutes, no. But I
Is
can
it, but
but
is this one working? I hit the
yes,
live
this
stream.
is this I know whether it's working by going to livestream.agentix.org. And if you see yourself, which today you will, then it's working as intended.
Gotcha. Okay. Yesterday's, even though it said February 18th, actually did pretty well for some reason. Who knows why some of them do well and some don't? I don't know.
Um, yes, I think they are both. I think both restreams stream out through your LinkedIn, which I think would be the biggest driver as to how well something's doing.
Okay. All right. So I think what you're telling me is on for some reason on my Vibecast, it's stuck with some old live stream setup, and I gotta reset these settings.
Yes, you have a restream account of your own, and it's picking up your restream, and I guess it picks the one at the top of the list inside your restream, and that's called 18th of Feb or something like that.
Okay.
Also, how well the Zoom does depends on whether we have sent out an email, which I think Nick does, but I'm not really checking. So
I do it every week, bro.
cool.
All right. Well, we're at top of the hour. Is Rob here? I don't. No, Rob. I guess.
Yep. No, I
Nick,
just got
you're.
in.
Nope.
I was just. How are you, Rube?
No, Brad and Nick of time. Okay, top of the
22
hour.
seconds to
It's
spare.
yeah, June 19th. It's I think this is Juneteenth for those who celebrate. I celebrate anything that involves freedom. So it's a great day for our live cast. Yeah, little side note, I about 2 years ago, was two, three, no, actually more than two, it was like 4 years ago, I helped get the Juneteenth a museum in Houston. No, Corpus Christi. Corpus. I should know this. I apologize to the Juneteenth crew. There's a museum that celebrates the sort of emancipation of the folks in the southern U.S. Anyway, that's today. So happy Juneteenth Day. What do we got here? So we've had yesterday's podcast was certainly an interesting one for sure. Covered some crazy medical types of applications in the Midjourney release. That's a pivot if I've ever seen one. And what do we get lined up for today, Rob?
Yeah. So today we got a few presentations. Matt Matthews has got something that he's been working on that he wants to share, and then Mandeep as well. It's got some stuff. I know you've got a bunch of stuff to cover as well. So then, if we've got time towards the end, we've also got Chris Royce on deck. Yeah, there was lots. That was really, really fascinating yesterday. And I noticed that Midjourney is already slated to open up their first facility or their first spa where they're going to be doing these scans. So it is in motion. It's remarkable.
Yes. So for those of you who missed it, apparently Midjourney's created this kind of, I don't know if it's medical. It's for spas, which I guess gets you around whether it's officially medical or not. But basically, it's this ultrasonic sensing device where you stick someone in a bathtub of some sort, and then you shoot these sound waves at it, and it does these slices of sort of what's happening inside your body or something along those lines. It's definitely right up our alley.
Equivalent of
Yeah.
an MRI, yeah, but without the enormous, magnetic and all those aspects. Yeah, quite remarkable.
Although I think we discovered yesterday it'd probably be a bad idea to do it or anywhere near your brain without potentially scrambling all the inner workings of your brain. So there might be some testing they might want to do, I would say. But
for people with metal
keep...
implants, this is awesome, right? Because you can't go into an MRI if you've got some horrible thing that's going to vibrate badly.
Oh, right.
Like
Yeah. So if
shrapnel
you've got
or
metal. Oh, right. Yes. Or like any kind of like bone, pins, that sort of stuff. Same thing that happens when you go through one of those machines at the airport, I guess.
Yeah, the worst thing is you've got something like a metal fragment in your eye. That would be terrible.
Oh, that would be
Yeah.
terrible. So
That would
it's
be
like
terrible.
Yeah,
The
that sounds.
the U.S. airport, their policy, if you have some kind of implant or anything, that you cannot go through metal detector, is extremely, I'll say, annoying, a little bit too intrusive in front of everybody.
Well, those kind of comments, Ocean, you're gonna get on a list.
Well,
But
pacemaker, so I go through those all the time, and then I feel really annoyed
Wow.
when people just have to pat me down everywhere. I'm just like, you don't need to touch those areas.
It's like whatever. I at this point, I just go with it. I'm just happy when I don't get the secret room. That's my plus. If I can get through and it takes me less than 2 hours, I'm on a I'm having a good day. And if they do stick me in that room, I just kind of twiddle my thumbs for 2 hours. But that's a whole other conversation. But that said, you know what I would like to get my hands on? I actually want to get one of those. I used one of those scanners where you're putting your hands in the air and it's scanning. I think we could do some crazy stuff with one of those. Like if we connected that to some of our AI and said, what else can we do with this thing? I'm sure looking for like random napkins in your back pocket is probably not the most useful use of that tech. But who knows?
Did you see what Midjourney is doing now? A full
Yeah,
body
yeah.
scan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what drove this conversation.
That was sorry.
that-
Yeah, we were talking about
that's-
those other scanners last week too.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. And that thing isn't cheap. So I looked at trying to build it myself. You're looking at a few $100,000
Yeah.
to build what Midjourney and that's they've got like 2 petabytes or whatever
Petaflops.
they're calling the petaflops. So they're packing an H100 in one of those things alone is probably 50K. And then you've got all the sensors and whatnot, and you're looking at, I don't know, I'm back of the napkin math, probably 250K.
Yeah,
So
and the
it's
submersion
not,
feels very matrixy to me.
yeah,
Hey,
it's very Matrix.
yeah. Roof, you can probably get you whatever you did on the roof view and try to replicate the Midjourney, but with a cheaper sort of.
Well, so the fidelity has always been the trouble with Review, right? Because I'm using sort of sparse signals and it moves and jumps and whatever. But what we discovered yesterday in this is the reason why it has potentially higher fidelity is they're using a kind of liquid and subsonic approach, right? And
Yeah,
slicing it all up.
they put the body in the liquid of some sort, right?
Yeah, it
Water,
lowers
yeah,
you down
salt
into a
water.
chamber. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you do that, then I mean, it probably should ditch Wi-Fi and use some other kind of signal. But I mean, it's
Rube,
Yeah,
I
it's-
shared
it's-
the paper in the chat. I don't know if you had it yesterday, but maybe you can send your bots to research that one. It
Super.
seems like
It's
it went out in April, and it seems like exactly what they built upon, or maybe it's theirs.
but also,
So a whole cross section, ultrasound, tomography, ultrasound. Yeah, okay. There we go. Let's reverse. Now the problem with any of these physical things is we actually need, someone to be our guinea pig, which, I think Nick said he'd do. So we're
but actually, ultrasound you can pull off. It's not very sort of complex. But the problem is fidelity of ultrasound. It's not that great, like in the noise and.
Yeah, it sounds promising for sure.
Yeah, but also, so
it's
you said it's hundreds of thousands of dollars for the Midjourney thing?
Well, they didn't say how much. I asked ChatGPT to tell me how much it would cost to
Because-
build, and according to ChatGPT, it isn't. It's cheaper than an MRI, but
It's
it's not
cheaper because I
exactly.
was thinking it's the same ballpark as a CT scan or MRI. So I mean, they just did the existing thing with the GPU, isn't they?
Well, the MRIs aren't cheap. They're like more than $1 million.
Yeah, but if it's a
yeah.
$500,000, I mean, it's in the same ballpark, right?
So this is cheaper than that, probably, quarter million versus 2 million. So it's 10x cheaper, I guess.
Yeah, no, but price of MRI machine includes the FDA approval and the marketing and all the stuff. So the machine itself is probably not that much.
Okay. Let's try to build that then. If we can build an MRI or something similar, that sounds even more
I
exciting.
mean, MRIs are hard. You need liquid like nitrogen or whatever. You need to supercool it and strong magnets but and the CT scan. But I guess ultrasound.
Start with the wand ultrasound and not do the whole submersing container. That would probably be cheap.
Yeah,
Just like
but
they do
then-
for
I
prenatal
need-
visits.
I was talking to my team. I said I need a better warehouse to build all my crazy experiments in. I think that we're not too far away from the Matrix. We just need to plug someone in and we get ourselves the meat cloud or something.
But what I was
But
thinking,
the problem is the warehouse size keeps growing every day, so it's tough to find one. It's
Yeah.
like it's growing by 1,000 square feet
Yeah.
needs every day.
Well, it needs to be. Maybe we can start with Salem in Massachusetts. It could be like this old sort of rundown. We could go for that.
Yeah, and we sublease it in October. Be good.
Yeah, exactly. It's in October. What's the worst that could happen, really?
yeah, but
So
Salem, I think the average like house there, it's probably over the million. It's not like so. You shouldn't trust.
Oh,
it.
I was suggesting Salem, Ontario. Why? There's a different Salem? No, I'm
Oh
just,
no,
I'm
I
just
thought you were
kidding.
saying Salem, Massachusetts. Yeah, because I live right
Yeah,
next to
I
it.
was.
It's
I'm,
not.
I'm just kidding with you. There's
Yeah,
there's
it's
there's a
been-
London, there's a Paris, there's every major European city I think has a Ontario version, which probably is the same in the United States, I'm guessing.
Actually, New England's the same, and all the people from UK they always criticize because how they name the towns they don't align on the map correctly. How they like they are in UK like the worst offender. It's the Northborough is actually south of the Southborough.
Speaking of, I don't know if anyone's been watching the show on Apple, Widow's Bay. It's kind of a little unexpected as far as shows go. I thought it was going to be like a horror show, but it ended up being kind of a mock horror show. It's quite entertaining for anyone that enjoys that sort of thing. My wife Brenda and I have been watching that over the last couple weeks. It gets the Rube thumbs up. So, but today, let's jump in, I guess. I've been working on Meta Harness, and I know Stu's got a little landing page, and Stu, you had some you're like, what the heck's a Meta Harness, and why do I need it? Right? Is that the general question that you're asking?
Yes, sir.
So you did take a look at it though, right? But you couldn't figure out exactly what the purpose of it was. Is that the
Yeah, but remember, I'm a lot less technical than all you guys, so that's not all that surprising. So I built this to try to help other folks in the same space kind of meet them where they were and said, why do I use it? How would you use it? It goes through a bunch of examples and then it creates an RVF with all the aspects of the repo that you can drag in. It also goes to Notebook LM, creates some images for it, an explainer, and then gives you that to download as well. So it's just people found it helpful for the review. I was just trying to do something similar here, and each one is kind of broken into its own thing. You can dive into it or not as need be.
Yeah, looks great. This is pretty cool. So a meta harness that's the hot topic, and this is something that Rob and I were presenting a couple weeks ago at the craft conference as well. And I don't know if it was we certainly, I don't think we came up with the term, but we certainly were one of the first to sort of fully implement this originally in the concepts of some of the work we were doing with roof flow. And essentially, it's in the most simple terms, a meta harness is this idea of a kind of wrapper around other applications or other data sets, other environments, things like that. So when you look at what like a roof flow is, it's essentially initially it was just a wrapper around the Claude code system, and that allowed you to and increase things, increase the capabilities of the platform by including memory, agents, team capabilities, and other various plugins. All those things at the time, circa 1 year ago, didn't exist within Claude. Over time, they did. Now, as the space has evolved, there's been other sort of, I don't know, lack of a better term, copycat sort of platforms that have popped up. Codex, for example, the CLI from Google, PyDev, Open Code, and all these different things. So what this platform is essentially doing, if we jump here to the repo for a moment, is a couple things. So and by the way, and again, I've kind of been building this as a sort of side thing for a little while because I was just curious. But what this is essentially doing is creating, again, the ability for you to wrap and create your own CLI for whatever purpose. So the idea was, what if you could create kind of your own RuFlow, not called RuFlow, but called StuFlow or something, and it would allow you to then create those based on what you want. So in this case, you can go here, you can point it at your repository, you can give it a GitHub token. Again, this is all saved in the browser, or you can run it yourself if you prefer, but it's secure. Now I'm using a browser-based similarity vector system. So if I choose the mini LM, I can then analyze first the structure of that environment. So if let's choose a different. I can choose. I have it. So I click on analyze. So this is going to start analyzing the environment. It takes a minute to analyze, and then it creates a kind of initial harness. It looked at the source code base and tries to figure out what the ideal. I probably need to do a little bit more work on the graphical UI. The CLI is actually more powerful. A fairly low confidence for some reason on this one. I'm not sure why, but I can go in here and then I can decide what features it gets. Now, remember, for different tools, you get different structures, right? So the .Claude is the structure you get for Claude-related plugins and agents and skills. Now, if I choose the dev, you're going to get different files as well. And if I choose the RVM, which is my sort of bare metal sandbox for running these things, if you want to run it sort of independently, OpenClaw, Hermes, GitHub Actions, that sort of thing. It's creating all the different structures that you need relating to that. Now, what's important here is it's sort of bootstrapping the purpose and structure of whatever it's building based on what you pointed at. So if I'm going to call this the harness name StuFlow, which is
I love it.
there, it's going to be called. Here we go. Now we can go and call StuFlow. Oh, fix the harness name to preview the. Oh, what did I break it? Possibly. And then you can choose different packages, different structures. I'm not sure why I'm getting the. There we go. So then we have different structures and different options available to it, such as what agents you want to use. So you might want to have run books or orchestrators or planners, and it's going to create those components for you. You can change various things, but the long story short, what it's doing essentially is creating what will end up as a harness. So I've created a whole bunch of different harnesses. My main harness is the meta harness, which again, almost 20,000 downloads since just this week, which is probably my best launch. I never get 20,000 downloads in the first week. I don't know what's going on with this one, but anyway, that's not
You just announced it yesterday too.
Yeah, I know, it's pretty crazy.
Are you like a New York Times bestseller author? Because I know a few people who are. So if you write a bunch of books and one of them becomes New York Times bestseller, the sales of the other books instantly go up by like 10 or 100-fold.
Well, yeah, that's the.
So maybe like when you publish something, like everybody's like, "Hey, what did Rube like come up with this time?"
I think, yeah, I'm not sure exactly. Maybe, I don't know, but what I do know is this makes a huge difference. I think the 9,000 followers I have basically jumpstarts pretty much anything I push.
Yeah, because everything you push and that pops on the. So you got 9,000 followers, but what's the how many downloads you got on the
20,000 so far?
Well, yeah. I launched the router 4 days ago, and this one did 17,000. And I launched the Meta Harness right around, I think right around the same time. this is the latest one, but yeah, so it's 20,000. I don't know. But that's not, I'm not showing off my numbers. Well, I am, but what I am showing you is the different meta harnesses. So these meta harnesses, so for example, GitHub Actions or Stripe, Hugging Face. So I created different harnesses to sort of show what these systems could do. So in the case of these harnesses, you know, and these are hidden. I guess these did less, but if you point it at your repo or an application or even someone else's repo and basically say, build me a scaffolding that'll discover and allow me to you know, operate and manage that particular environment, that's what the system is doing. And so again, it's your own personal, again, for lack of a better term, it's your own personal roof flow that can be customized to your particular requirements. And that allows you to do, you know, these, you know, the plugins and things like, so if you're using Claude, oops, what's the wrong screen? All right, go in the screen. All right, here we go. So in this case, if you want to go in here and do a plugin, you know, you're going to have the options for a harness, right? So if I do meta harness, you can see I've got meta harness scores. You know, obviously these are harnesses that I built for myself, but you can obviously make these your own for whatever purposes. You know, so I made a harness for the harness, if you will. The harness in RubeFlow essentially will bootstrap the development even more efficiently. So you could export. So if you wanted to take the harness that you already have, you know, or my harness, the RubeFlow harness that you've customized in your own environment over the last month or two or whatever you've been using it, and export that as a your own personal CLI, you can do that right from here by using one of these plugins. You can also use those as agents. If you use the meta harness, you can see I've got a meta harness agent that would allow you to jumpstart that as well. So it's basically giving you those sorts of tools. Now, why is that important? The important part here is the loop. So you can see here I'm in some random management dashboard here that I'm working on for Cognitum or whatever, and you can see I've got various various ADRs that I've created. Now, a lot of the ADRs that I'm creating, I can create in a structured or a kind of workflow approach. So if I want to do a whole bunch of things all at once, I need a harness to be able to define how those things will operate, you know, structurally against the application or the environment or the deployment or whatever my objectives of the thing I'm doing. So that often involves doing something like a loop, or in my case, I'm going to use a loop worker. So the loop worker would define like what and how the thing needs a loop over an extended period of time. So the harness is describing not only the functionality of the system in which it kind of needs to integrate against, it's also describing the ongoing operations of the thing that it needs to do as it works through whatever it's doing. I know I'm using really broad descriptions, but it can adapt. Now, the last part of the equation was, okay, I've created the system that creates harnesses. This is cool. What else can I do with that? So if we go to the agent harness, this is the part that's probably the most interesting that I'm gonna hopefully announce next week in one of my branches. I think it's called Darwin. Oh, actually, no, I think I pushed it this morning so you guys could try it. Under packages, you'll see that there's Darwin mode. Darwin mode is really cool because Darwin mode essentially allows you to describe the model as static, but the harness as adaptive. So what this does is essentially automatically evolves the harness and finds the optimal sort of mechanism for the harness to operate against the language model. In essence, I can take a relatively crappy old language model, which I did, and then I can get something like 100 to 120% improvement in the performance of that language model by essentially doing a kind of iterative testing of that model using this idea of a Darwin-Gödel machine lineage, whatever the heck that is. But basically, it evolves it. It makes it change and mutate and update, and it does that in a sandbox. So it's testing sort of the limitations of the static model, and then saying how can I adapt the harness that sits alongside of the model to be sort of more efficient and effective in whatever it's doing. So you can see here that I've got things in this particular case that can involve generations, number of generations to run, the number of children. So like it's testing sort of how and what to just optimize itself budgets, because you could use this against a state-of-the-art model if you wanted to, like you could use it against 4.8, but the drawback to 4.8 would be if you're not using the dash P, which is actually still available, it'd be pretty expensive. Each one of these runs on a frontier model like GPT 5.5 or Opus 4.8 is actually $20 to $25 for one run. And each run, if you're running against the SWE bench, or each complete benchmark would be 300 runs. So to do one, that's somewhere around $2,400 to do, or even more, probably more like somewhere between $2,400 to $5,000 to do a complete benchmark on that top model. I haven't done that because I think Chris would freak out if I said I just ran a $5,000 benchmark just for the hell of it on a Friday. But so what I did, rather than say I'm going to try to make the best models even better, like who cares about that? Let Anthropic worry about that stuff. I said, can I make the cheapest models perform at the same or better rate as sort of mid-tier models like Sonnet 4.6? The answer is I totally could. So, but what this does is, again, allows me to sort of evolve the framework in real time. Basically, it's creating lots and lots of different frameworks and then saying out of the 300 or 3,000 different frameworks, harness frameworks that I've created, this is the best for this particular purpose or this particular job that it's needing to do. And then it qualifies and quantifies that using an SWE bench. And you can see that I've got a whole bench marking system in here, and the runners. So essentially, if you're looking to create a kind of evolutionary agent, one that adapts and changes by rewriting its own code rather than rewriting the model or retraining the model, this is extremely cost efficient. It's way more effective. And you can the cost of training an entire model doing this way is somewhere around $1.50. So $5,000 versus $1.50 to get a kind of hyper optimized version of your agent. And it's self-improving, it's doing all this stuff. So right now, my other machine, it's running these SWE these benchmarks. You guys, if you're interested, you can sort of go into and see some of the results. Everything I'm doing is here. Let's see what we've got so far for results. So there's the Darwin Evolve, and I'm using OpenRouter. One thing I did notice, if you are interested, OpenRouter has the fusion option that they've come out with recently, which basically fuses multiple models together. It's expensive, but if you're looking at a cheap, not cheap, cheap in the sense that you don't have to do your own SWE bench, expensive as in each model costs a ton, but you could use the fusion model as well. I'm attempting to do the same idea as fusion, just with a harness. The other thing, so these are some of the stats, latency and cost and quality. Obviously GPT-5 is currently the best in terms of some of the things I've run against. Yeah, it's pretty amazing response that I'm getting here. What else can I tell you guys? I hope this makes sense. It's to Stu's point, it's a hard concept to kind of get your head around. It's a self-evolving, self-writing harness system. It writes its own code, it evolves it, it checks it, it optimizes it, and does that all by itself.
Hey, Rube, I only have one problem with that is that SW bench, these days it's kind of crappy, like benchmark, because there is no good benchmark, because we just reviewed at work all these benchmarks. They have tasks like write me bubble sort in Python. Like, when was the last time you had the need to write bubble sort in Python?
Well, SWE bench doesn't do that type of test. So SWE bench
maybe was another, but I seem like we reviewed all.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and the problem with SWE bench. So what SWE bench is essentially doing is attempting to give the models unseen problems, right? Mm-hmm. So the hardest problems in the SWE bench, in the ones I've done, seem to be relating to like the Python, what the heck's the name of that Python? Django questions seem to be tricky for the system to navigate for whatever reason. They're basically giving him problems. These are like bugs and complex things that it needs to fix, and then giving it and saying how long or can you come to a fix within 3 tries. And for the state of the art for the top models is somewhere around 89% pass rate. Now for like older models, like Deep Chat circa like a year ago, it's like 7.7% pass rate, which is interesting. It gives you an idea of how far we've come in the last year. But it also is a for me gives a practical way to say, can I improve not the best models, but the cheapest models?
Mhm.
And in that scenario, I was able to get a significant improvement. So I was able to go in on the deep, I think it's DeepSeek chat model from 7.7% to 28%.
Mhm.
Now, that doesn't sound like a huge increase when you compare it to like Opus, which get or even Fable 5, which gets like a 90%. But the cost structure is substantially different. We're talking about a 0.0002% or sorry, 2 cent cost versus $20 for the
Mhm.
same problem. So then the issue becomes one of brute force. Even if I have to ask it to do it 100 times, it's still cheaper,
It
right?
is,
And
yeah.
And
That's
then
what.
horse race the multiplicity of responses that come back. Guy has his hand up there.
yeah.
My question is, does this get us out of like Claude Code vendor lock-in? So does this harness actually
Yeah.
replace Claude Code entirely?
Exactly. It replaces Claude Code entirely because I'm a little bit I'm a lot worried that someday Claude decides that Canadians are no longer allowed to use the platform and I'm unemployed. Right. So
Yeah.
I won't be unemployed. I don't think I've ever actually had a real job to be unemployed. But the problem there is like I don't want to be beholden to a single provider. So what this does is I can use all the different harnesses and systems that exist. If I want to use, open code or pi.dev or whatever it is, and I can instantaneously switch those and use really cheap models. Now, when you look at these cheap models, and my bar is essentially $200 a month, right? And if I can keep working at the level and output that I have today, and it costs me $200 or less, then I know I'm not going to be affected by the any kind of sovereign limitations of a model that a government might enforce. The other benefit between us on this call is I can use uncensored models. So there's lots of interesting things you can do with uncensored models, like relating to biology, medical sort of analysis, things that Claude has a tendency to say, no, I can't help you with that. All of a sudden, I can do those things without having to ask Claude to do it. And lastly, because if I'm comfortable using Claude for whatever reason, because I like the UI or whatever, I can then just route the request to my I think I call it agent booster, and that just rewrites the requests to DeepSeek or Qwen or whatever model is available, and it just kind of works the same way without having to have a subscription to Claude at all. And the last part, it works pretty good on like a 35 billion parameter, I think it's Gwen model. So you can run it on a Mac Mini, which I like. So I'm rather than have to. So a lot of the SWE bench work that I'm doing, I'm not even running against a paid model at all. I'm just using my Mac Mini and having it do its little thing.
We have a couple quick
Uh,
questions, and then we'll
sure.
pivot to Matt. Ocean?
Oh, yeah. So with regard to what Ruth mentioned on the Fable or Opus 4.8 scoring so high of the SWE, we actually mentioned this before during one of the live that they spend a whole lot of money, just like what Ruth just did, to optimize the harness for those benchmarks. So they probably spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or even more just for that little number. Like the underlying model probably doesn't change for those process.
Billion. So $1 billion is what they spent. Not 100,000 is what they spent in the run of like an afternoon. But yeah. So to Ocean's point, there's benchmark optimizations, and I think Vlad's kind of hinted at that as well. What the benchmarks are good at doing is sort of fine tuning my structure to give me sort of a baseline of what it can do and how I can and make it better, right?
Mhm.
But the problem is it's really, really expensive, right? The SW Lite is 300 questions, and that's the light version. I think the regular version is 3,000 questions. So yeah, to do one iteration, 3,000 questions, comfortably is going to, using Opus 4.8 is going to cost you $25,000. And that's just for the baseline. Okay, now I've done a $25,000 baseline benchmark just to see what the baseline is. Then I got to do that again, and I got to do it again and again and again. So to do any decent level of benchmarking on Opus 4.8 is going to cost you somewhere between $2 to $5 million. I don't have that kind of money. And even if I did, I probably wouldn't spend it on a benchmark.
Right.
They obviously can spend $1 billion to do that because they've got an infinite supply of money, essentially. We don't.
Essentially.
So, yeah. Mandeep, how's it going? Whoa.
Yeah,
Oh.
your audio is
Okay.
is not working.
Yeah, there's some transit.
Why don't we go to Bradley?
All right, Brad.
Yeah, I did find even for the benchmarks, it was closer to like 4 or under 10%, unless you added in a whole bunch of different techniques just to even run some of the raw models. Like if you're using without scaffolding, you have to add in all the scaffolding. So the things that they're publishing are not something that a normal consumer could do. Anyways, you have to add a whole bunch of techniques like you did.
Yeah, and 10%. Wait, when you mean 10%,
yeah, when I was running the verified 500, the raw model just with the instance from the SWE bench to be able to run that first pass was under 10% pass rate. Once you started adding in some scaffolding and being able to find out the original commit, then you could get the raw models up without any agents or anything fancy to closer to about 40%.
But that's what my problem. I mean, who cares about raw model performance? Because when you have like RAG and the feedback loops and harnesses and scaffolding, I still not convinced that even Opus is better than Sonnet, because last empirical sort of experiment I had this Sonnet, it was working very slow through the problem, but it was actually making progress. And I switched to Opus. Opus did not solve it immediately, but it solved it in 4 turns. So I'm just saying, like with Sonnet, if Sonnet would solve it in 6 turns, it would be actually cheaper, like because Sonnet's half the price, right? So if the model is making progress, like, and you're not involved in it, you can just go like, and because I now have like things running overnight or like for a few hours, so like you just launch a bunch of agents and they just sit there and chuck there, like, so the only thing that matters at the end of the day, did the problem get solved and how much did it cost? And if it was 1 turn of the model, or was it like 100 turns with the cheap like local model, I don't think it matters.
100%. And to your point, if you're now that we can run concurrency pretty well on these systems, I can just basically make a request, do 100 concurrent requests, and give me the best of those 100. And if the model's cheap enough, it doesn't matter. Like when the difference between DeepSeek and Opus 4.8 is so dramatic that I could literally do 1,000 different requests to DeepSeek, and it's still cheaper than one fully context loaded request to Opus. Yeah. Mandeep, did you get your mic working?
Yeah, I got it to work finally. Yeah. Sorry about that. I don't know what system issue. So if I want very simplistically trying to kind of play back what I heard from a meta harness point of view. So we had RuFlow, obviously CloudFlow evolved into RuFlow, lots of features which are in there. Is meta harness a mechanism of abstracting those features and enabling, let's say I've got my Mac Mini and I will deploy the Gemma 4 model in there. Is it a way for me to then apply RuFlow's capabilities when I work with Gemma models on the Mac Mini?
That's what I'm doing. So I'm using it as a mechanism to bypass the frontier model altogether. So the harness essentially uses a few different approaches, but one would be like the -p option, for example, in Claude Code, if you want to do that. And then it uses the local model or an open router model versus the default Anthropic model. And then let's say I want to take it a step further. Let's say I want to deploy a agent that always does something. Every night it checks my repo for security vulnerabilities. It does pen testing. Now, the pen testing model in particular is tricky because it sometimes thinks that when you're doing pen testing on your own stuff, you're hacking it, which you kind of are. So it stops you from doing it. So in that scenario, I'm going to use a DeepSeek uncensored model, and I'm able then to basically hack my own stuff and see where the vulnerabilities are more efficiently at essentially no cost. So yeah, and that gives me a couple different options. Now, because I don't want to spend more money than I have to, I can then set up my nightly running GitHub actions, and then I have a Tailscale connection that basically allows the remote GitHub agent, if you will, to connect to my Mac Mini and use that LLM. And essentially, I don't have to pay anything at that point. It's free, which is what I'm looking for. And for that narrow focus, it doesn't need to be a frontier model. It just needs to be good at doing that thing. In this case, doing pen tests and making sure that my system isn't vulnerable.
So why? So NPX Flow, for example, it's an independent package from Claude or anything, right? So where does the harness differ from generally installing Flow?
I've added the ability for it to mutate, evolve. It includes a whole variety of other packages other than just Claude Code and Codex. Now I've integrated that already into Reflow, so now Reflow has all that as well. But it's a way for you to just build your own, scaffolding and harnesses quickly and easily and independently. So you can call it the Mandeep MPX, right?
Okay.
That's the idea.
Ofer?
Thank you.
Yeah.
A question, Rube. So when Claude Code come out, they have a static harness around it. When we add skill, we're adjusting that harness and it's static again. Is your system allowing it to be dynamically modifying? So as it's trying to solve a problem and it's using a specific model, the harness itself keep evolving while it works on it?
Yes, it evolves. So specifically, that's the Darwin component. So the Darwin mode essentially allows for a adaptive evolutionary coding. It reprograms itself and then tests itself and then optimizes itself to find the optimal version of itself. And that was the breakthrough. The model's static, the model doesn't change, but the harness that it sits around it optimizes for the particular task. Once you've defined what that task is, it can then sort of evolve itself to say, this is of all the various possibilities of this harness, this solves the problem the best. Now, to define the best, I needed a measure of what the best actually is. So for certain problems, I used that Draco benchmark, which is essentially measuring reasoning capability. That's great for like research-related agents and things that needed to do discovery, but it wasn't great for like implementation style agents, things that needed to execute and run specifically around another application. So I tried a bunch and turned out the SWE bench was still the best for sort of measuring that particular capability. So I built it around that particular benchmark, but we could probably use other benchmarks. I know Chris and the guys in New Zealand have a benchmark they've got for lean mathematics, and depending on the problem, you can basically have it evolve alongside other problem sets. I just used SWE bench.
Does it also mean that my harness would not be the same as what you use, and per project require a different self-evolving harness, or
Yes.
it would become an ultimate harness that works for everybody?
No, they're all different. They're all different. So the assumption is, let's say I pointed at, a particular repo, like the Apache repo or something. It's got millions of lines of code. It's going to attempt to optimize itself for that particular code base and that particular repo. And it's going to try a variety of different tactics and approaches until it determines what the optimal structure in terms of cost versus intelligence is for that particular environment. Now, specifically, the evolutionary is the Darwin mode. So if you're using the sort of meta harness straight out of the gate, it's going to do an analysis of that repo, and it's going to basically use a sort of semantic similarity to try to give you the optimal version based on the code base. But what it's missing in that scenario was like, how do I optimize for cost as well? Like, how do I make this thing the cheapest and smartest it can possibly be? That's what Darwin does on top.
I just started testing that for my agentic query fleet with the local Gem 4 12 billion model running on my Mac. So let's see how that will work. So using Darwin to, fit the harness on top of my, starting with only one module, but that will be a nice test. Maybe we can share that benchmarks next time.
Yeah. Keep in mind the smaller the model, the less amount of parameters, the bigger change you're going to see. Because you're going from a small number to a smaller but bigger version. So going from 7% to 28% is a 3-4x increase in its capability. Where if you apply it to a frontier model, it's impossible to do a 4x on something that's already 90%. So it's relational is going to be less. So you're going to have the most impact of smaller models. And if you're doing code-based models, the best models I've seen in terms of, if you got a map running are the 35 billion parameter models, the reasoning models, specifically the
QEncoder or something.
Yeah, QCoder. GwenCoder is the one. Yep. That's the one you want to use.
Yep.
Nice.
I have that one with 32 billion parameters also. Yeah.
Yeah, 32. Yeah, 30. I never remember the exact number. It's the GwenCoder. And for that one, I was able to get I think it was a 50% increase. Again, 50% it means that solving a problem, if it takes 6 tries, it takes just, three tries kind of thing. So, or whatever the number is. And so it is meaningful and cheaper. Lyle, how's it going?
Hey, Rube, how you going? Hi, everyone. Just had a quick question with regards to the harness. How does that apply to greenfield projects? Because obviously you're saying if you've got an existing repo, it works. But if I've got a brand new project, how can I adapt the harness to that? Is that just pointing it to documentation and create your harness based off a PID, or how would that work?
I've got 2 approaches, and one of the and actually the latest models have become particularly abrasive towards my code. Like it's like, oh, that's bullshit, and no one's done that, and then I gotta try to convince it that it's real and blah blah blah. So what the way that I've been getting around that is twofold. One, I create a vector style sort of adjacent brain that basically injects like, here's how it works and here's what you need to know about the code base. So it sort of negates this, your stuff doesn't work or isn't possible problem that seems to have occurred recently. And the other thing that I do is I use the micro LoRa capability and create a mixture of experts. So I create a secondary LLM, a tiny LLM, and these are like 3 billion parameter LLMs, and then I fine tune it against my code base. And depending on what I'm doing, I either use a straight vector with a kind of sentence transformer, or I use an LLM. I haven't figured out exactly which way and why I do it. I'm kind of mixing and matching. Generally, the vector works better for at least the stuff I'm doing.
All right, cool.
Wait, Rube, you have finished doing a mixture of LoRa adapter?
I did that in the original version of my Rube LLM. So yeah, the mixture of LoRa. And hopefully this isn't too nerdy for you guys. It's the way you tune in. But the mixture of LoRa is really interesting. So the mixture of LoRa allows me to fine tune a collection of different LLMs, not broadly, but specifically for the particulars of an environment or a problem set or data that already exists. Now, what's interesting in the LoRa, and I think it's called a micro LoRa as well. So I can iteratively update the model as I interact with it. And then I can also iteratively fine tune the embedding model that tells me where and how to traverse that model optimally to get that data back again. So when you think about the embedding model is like the map of the universe, right? So you've got 2 pieces. An embedding model that says, how do I get from here to another constellation without slamming into a sun, right? It's a map, if you will, and it allows me to describe and define where and how I can place the information in it or get back to the information efficiently. And the other allows me to then sort of massage or organize the information within that model using those 2 things together. So it's not just I'm not just fine tuning the model. I'm using a fine-tuned a micro LoRa fine-tuned embedding model that's also micro fine-tuning the model itself, and the two work together.
How many embedding models you use during this process? Is it just one?
I've got a mixture of embedding models which is I think what you were getting at. So because these are local models, and I'm generally if you've used Rube Vector, I'm using 384 dimensions, which means I don't have to use a GPU. So I can mix those. And back to the harness. The harness is capable of understanding all this crazy concocted stuff that you're putting together and figuring out the optimal pattern to understand when and how I need to invoke an embedding model, when I need to fine tune that embedding model, when I need to use a certain mixture of experts, in terms of multiple models, when I need to fine tune those models, and how all those pieces fit together with a memory of what worked and what didn't on an ongoing basis. So the harness brings all these pieces together and says, how do they work together, and how can and of all the various pieces that are available to me, what's the best collection of those things to put together?
So is this done by Rube Vector brain mechanism?
The brain is a causal sort of memory system that essentially allows it to understand what's happened, and then it's queryable through things like MCP and other APIs that can then be put in alongside of the harness. So it's more of a data lake than it is a vector. It's a kind of mishmash of lots of data in a way that's consistent, maybe.
Got it.
And there's some really fascinating aspects that you've got in there as far as, identifying what the optimal proposed evolution is, not greedy, first past the gate, but the best combination of maybe not optimal steps, but collectively the optimal path. So it's really exciting to see how that's going to evolve. We do have Matt, who's ready to present too.
Okay, what
do you think?
Let's go. Yeah, let's do it. Matt, good to see you.
Are you with us, Mr. Matt?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm here. Good to see you, Rube. Good to see everyone. Can you all see my screen?
We see Darwin mode, agent harness wrapper.
Okay, perfect. That's exactly what I wanted you to see, because this presentation today on June 19th is dedicated to Dr. Marion Croak, who is the inventor of voice over IP, one of the first 2 Black women inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. She has over 200 patents. If anyone's connected to her, I would love to meet her and spend some time and pick her brain. Patent is one of my bucket list items, including a TED Talk. Maybe this could be a TED Talk. So let's take a journey, literally in the way I think, in a field trip into a place. So I'd flown a night flight many hundreds of times. So coming home from a retreat with my brothers in the Agenic Foundation, I looked out the window, and this time I couldn't look away. There was something magic about the night sky. I was looking at it. Maybe it was the altitude of the plane. Maybe it was the meditative feel and the sentiment of the lights. I'm not sure, but I just couldn't stop looking at the night sky. So I took out my phone and I started taking photos. And what I wanted to do, from my experience in the foundation, just building, and I wanted to figure out, how can I capture this moment? And so what I did is, what if I could feel this on demand from my living room without the airport, nothing replaced going to places, right? But what if I could bottle this feeling? So what I created was what I'm calling aerial art. And the intention of this, as I demo this, and I know this, once you guys see this, the whole intention of this was purely to capture the moment in time from that photo as I was looking out the window of the plane. putting it, I'm still not sure the form factor, putting it on the wall in my house and what I call flight cinema. So come with me on a journey. You all have first class seats. We'll fly this time from New York. Let me put New York in here to Minneapolis. We'll go to visit Prince's house and let me click fly. So as I fly, as the plane takes off, what you're seeing is the night view of the sky. Now, granted, it's a work in progress. I got to get the fidelity right. It's not what I saw out of the window, but it's en route. It's on the way to closer to getting to what I experienced out that window. So I'm still a work in progress, still trying to figure out to get the fidelity right. However, this is something I did in March. So I created this in March, and our friendly El Sensei, El Capitan Rube, actually created this repo called Skygraph just recently. So with Skygraph, what I did is I integrated Skygraph into Flight Cinema. So now, I'm not going to say for the first time ever, but maybe, I don't know. Now we all of us on this call can fly along with the people that are on, let's see, American Airline flight L110. Currently flying over Chicago. The fidelity is still, depending on which flight I choose, I get the right fidelity, and it's still work in progress, but we can literally see outside, we can see what those people on those flights are experiencing, right? And so going back to the presentation, now, one of the things that I can say, okay, I missed the demo time part. I thought this was too simple to impress anyone, right? And impress you guys, right? So as I was getting ready for this, I was like, oh, this is really simple. But again, the intention was just to be art on my wall, capturing that experience. So then I put it through my normal processes of the art of the possible, what if, and I'll just take a quick pit stop and say, a friend of mine in the foundation, Barry, shared with me an example. What he shared with me is that someone connected to him created with what I'm looking at here, a bread clip. This bread clip here generates $2 billion in revenue, right? And so as we all are trying to make the better mousetrap, sometimes the simplest ideal wins. And then going a step farther, what if I added root flow, cognitum to this idea? So what would happen, and what are some things that you all are seeing from that overall concept of the night sky? What could it do? What could it be? It could be a lobby concierge, an elder care companion, a clinic intake, a restaurant host. So the wall gets a nervous system, no cameras. The art goes dark when the room is empty and wakes as you walk up to it. It senses you, right? And so, picture it in the lobby, right? Picture it in the lobby, and it calls the front desk. And then again, I did what I normally do. So if anyone thinks it's simple, maybe the idea is simple, but it's $140 billion TAM on all the different ways that this aerial art concept can be provisioned into something that is useful for the hospitality industry. So to that end, if you know someone in hospitality, let's put it in a hotel. I love to build a prototype. Yeah, so that's it.
Very neat.
Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Marion Crow. Yeah.
Wonderful, Matt.
Yes.
I mean, I can already visualize it, like, it's got so many I guess, therapeutic and engaging use cases. A
Yeah.
picture on the
Hey,
wall, basically.
and Matt, can you just briefly tell us a little bit about Juneteenth and the importance of it, what it is, just for folks who might not be familiar?
Yeah, absolutely. So Juneteenth is now become a recognized national holiday. What Juneteenth is commemorating the freeing of the slaves. And so June 19th is marked as the actual day the slaves were freed. However, the proclamation was signed some time prior to that, but there was no email, there was horse and buggy, and there were also all the things in between getting the notification out to the plantation owners and to the others that the slaves were free. So June 19th is now a national commemoratory holiday commemorating the freedom of the slaves. Thank you for that, Rube.
Thank you. And so back to yours. So you created this. I know it's amazing. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, we should integrate the sky graph structure. What underpins, like, how are you handling the data?
So that's why. So I'll go back to it. That's why I was saying it was. I thought it was simple because as I was working with the system, I realized, okay, you don't need it. This is all browser based. You don't need a database. You don't need. This is all streamed from let's see. Where is it? It's all streamed as I was building this out. It's all streamed from this repo here, or from Cesium Ion. So some of this stuff I don't, there's an idea, and I think that's the whole intention of what my presentation is about. I looked out the window and I just really wanted to capture the moment in the living room. I wasn't sure exactly how to build the stack that I needed and what I needed it to do. And as I was speaking with Claude, I found this product called Cesium. And then as I was preparing for the presentation, I realized there's nothing. It's simple in the sense that, I don't need to have a database. I don't need to have some of the normal elements in here. But that's why I took it a step farther and looked at, adding cognitum and adding Rube vector and adding more intelligence but all of this is streams as far as the best way I can describe it.
Nice. This is amazing. Any comments, questions for Matt? All right. Just a quick update too, by the way. We have a location for a upcoming Agentics meetup in San Francisco in the South Bay on the 23rd of July. So if anyone's interested in helping out, organizing, attending, spreading the word, whatever, we'd love to have your involvement at that point. There's a bunch of us that are going to be flying in that week. So maybe there's some other things we could cook up while a lot of us are in town. I don't think there's a particular reason we're all coming in on the week of the 23rd. Other than we haven't done much in San Francisco recently. So yeah, if anyone's in the area, let us know and we'll meet up.
And I'll
Also,
Rube, let me just chime in on that. Anyone just drop me a note. Drop me a note. We'll get some things set up. Happy to have you. We'll do a couple of dinners or maybe a taco thing or something on Tuesday, and whatever. We'll figure it all out. So just happy to have you guys.
Taco Tuesday. And actually, we've been discussing changing up our plan for the Toronto meetups. And rather than doing pizza, which we all kind of got bored of after a while, we've been tossing around the idea of doing different local sort of vendors and restaurants in the proximity to where we have our event, and doing some more interesting food selections. Maybe we can do a little kick that off in San Francisco as well. No, pizza free. Nothing against pizza, but it gets a little boring after a while.
Nice. Yeah, that's going to be a great event in July in San Fran. That's excellent.
Yeah.
We're top of the hour, Roof. I know Mandeep has something for you.
I had a quick question before we
Yep.
transition, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Rule all. How can I get better fidelity on this app from what you've seen? Through HD fidelity, and then adding more to the stack like a database and others. What would you suggest on next steps? Keeping in mind that what I intended has been satisfied, with the exception of the fidelity. It's just having something on the wall, recreating the airline experience.
What are you what library are you using? D3 or 3JS?
3JS, and then also let's see, this is a cesium ion, something that I'm not familiar with, but it does the mapping behind it with what you saw on tracking the plane and all the mapping for the night sky.
As far as I can tell, and if anyone disagrees with me or has a better answer, feel free to pipe up. The challenge I have with a lot of these 3D systems is not the 3D system like D3 or 3JS. It's the fact that I can't publicly distribute the models, like the 3D models themselves, which makes it look good. So for example, the Rube stuff, I can make it look amazing, but I'm not allowed to actually distribute the 3D models that make it look amazing because they're not allowed to be distributed. So I have to then go and create my own version of these models, and I'm not a 3D modeler, I don't know. And so it looks a little bit more amateur. So the biggest challenge generally is the creative. And that's probably a good thing. That means that we still need creative people to be able to build creative things for now, hopefully forever, to make these things look good. So the issue is mostly around open source. Like when I say like 3D models are generally not very good. They don't look good. That's your biggest issue. Now, when it comes to fidelity, like if you're talking about like does it actually simulate the exact dynamics of what it looks like when I look out the window? Again, that is two things. It's the animation itself, which again speaks to an animator knows what they're doing, and two, it's some sort of like virtual versus real implementation of some kind of world model that can encapsulate what that world should look like. There's some projects from Google specifically around their world models that are built to do that. We've seen some demos on our Friday calls and some of the Google stuff over the last few months. So I would explore the Google world models, and they're open and free. Yeah,
Thanks. I'll quickly say that was 100% right, because I was trying to figure out if my altitude was too high or too low on the plane. It's locked in at 25,000 feet. And just what you said is that Claude said the same, is the limit is the model. And I'm at the limit. And if I go any higher, it's going to grain out. Go any lower won't make the fidelity come clearer, like what I'm trying to do. So your response, your answer was spot on.
Remember, you can also do dead reckoning when it comes to things like maps and 3D. So dead reckoning, the same idea as like when a sub captain loses his sonar and has to navigate the underwater world or whatever. He's dead reckoning. Same general idea. So rather than doing an always updating sort of request to a AI model or whatever, you can, in between the updates, you can kind of fake it. Now, what you don't really want to do is fake it too much, or you're going to get pushback that the thing isn't real. But when it comes to like certain things, if you're moving at 800 kilometers per hour and you're doing an update every 20 seconds or 30 seconds, you don't need to do an update every 1 second. You can kind of fake it in between those updates. Like it's moving in that direction. It's likely not going to fall out of the sky in the next 20 seconds. And if it does, for whatever reason, fall out of the sky in the next 20 seconds, the 20-second update will adjust that animated view of that plane flying through the sky.
Perfect. Thank you.
Ask it to do dead reckoning, and it's a great word too.
Okay, right on. All right.
Yeah. So sorry, who we had someone else, Mandeep, you wanted to show something?
Yeah, I'll show quickly something discovering basically the power of domain-driven design and in BRD thinking and applying ADRs and TDDs in in a structured way. So I'll just take 2 minutes to show you. So we will be talking about the basically map of the sky and other stuff. A lot of comments on obviously LinkedIn on this topic as well. So this morning as well, I woke up with something similar, which was this article. Someone built a ESP32 zero-throw soldering desktop flight tracker and said, "Oh, that's been hearing. So let me build it." So what you see here is me kind of waking up and on the mobile and trying to start with the PRD and all of stuff. And surprisingly enough, like the structure is very good. So we see here is a radar system. So that's where I am currently. And I can see obviously one of the flights at this point in time around me. So that's a BA flight from London City, which is close to where I live. I don't know what an IN is, but going there. Got information about satellites here around the whole point. So I can track on N2Y0. If I open this, it will open up there. And then simple bits like putting some kind of perspective around like a map perspective on it, which also seems to work. And this was interesting because all the satellites look close to us, but they are in the horizon, right? Many a time. So this map and the way it positions here, but they're the same satellite actually, CZ2DRB, versus if I go out to wherever it is in Poland, right? So that's actually CZ2D. It's perspective views. Obviously, the call signs learn a bit about like what does a domain of aerospace mean. So I mean, I found that really useful to kind of do PRDs in a domain-driven design approach, and then use that as the basis to define like what is the architectural decisions we make and approach the TDD London School, and it just churns it out. The same thing with something similar. Like yesterday, someone shared this database. So this is this one, right? So I'm not taking much. Oh yeah, the data sources are like this one. These are the data sources: Celestrak and ALB. So this is real data, obviously coming. The source code is there. Then again, yesterday someone pointed this database. I mean, someone put on the chat. I was making notes. So this is the GDELT project. It captures how the world is thinking, basically. It's apparently the largest data source of sentiment from across the world. And it stores. I said, what can I do about it? And Rob and I were talking a little while about the northeast of India. I said, let me create something about what is northeast thinking at this point in time. Same process of like a domain-driven design, PRD approach, and out comes this. So this is what northeast is thinking now, right? The mood tone per state. So what is northeast thinking today? Well, what are some things about conflicts are pulling it down, etc. And you can dig deep into it, like the negative character. So what it does, it looks at its data sources and obviously processing to give a sentiment around it. And it surprisingly, goes down to a lot of detail here. Similarly, you can go via state. So this is, okay, something may have broken. Let me refresh it. Okay, maybe there's an error. My cloud run has died or something like that, but it was per state. These are the two things. I just wanted to bounce off. But the main thing to say is like the approach we take. I think my learning here is to, to recognize that the LLMs know a lot about all domains. So using that perspective when designing requirements and then applying, I guess, the process we do seems to work very well. I'll pause here. Thanks.
Mandeep, check out the link I just put in there called sitdeck.com. It's
okay.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's essentially doing what you're doing, but across the world and in many different I don't want to say sectors, but areas like wars going on, and it's really, really comprehensive.
SitDeck. Yeah, I see that now.
Just as an FYI, you got to also be careful with something called the USML category V3H blah 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 for things that might be misconstrued as military. I got a notice for my drone thing that I had to make some alterations they weren't happy about. So you should be just be careful. Apparently, the powers that be are monitoring GitHub very closely at this point. Or at least my GitHub, anyway.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I actually think it's a badge of honor. I don't know if Chris does, but I slapped this. I had to slap this notice on here that says, as an industrial civilian cooperative formation and collision avoidance. It's not military swarming, I promise. This is projects intended to implement adaptive behaviors in response to threats, or is not implementing. So anyway, I had to remove a couple of my features, unfortunately. But I think the argument code, I think code is covered by free speech. So it's the implementation of this that would be illegal, just to be clear. And what that means is if I were to put this on a drone and sell the drone, I would be potentially not that I'm trying to pick a fight with the Department of War. So anyway, this is now not implemented for those who are interested. And there's a drone system that would work really well with what you just pointed out. Anyway, just be careful. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, thank you for SIDDEC. SIDDEC is very good. Actually, I'll have a look at it. My Cloud Run instance was done. Now it's come back, so it's chosen by, it's MVP at this stage. But it's very interesting. What can churn out in an hour or 2 hours. But yeah, that's what I had. Thanks.
Looks awesome. We should collaborate on. I did one. I used different sources, but mine's looking up. Yours is looking down. Yeah, and I saw that C4 thing too. I don't think you need a C4 ESP32. I guess you might if you wanted to create a device that you hang out your window or something. The APIs are more than adequate.
Yeah. One of my tasks remains is to create a lab in my garage with a number of ESP32s and Rube basing the cognitive device and all. That's something.
Yeah.
I think Stu is far ahead of it. So I need to pick his brains. But that's one thing.
I want to get like a warehouse. Yeah, like a big enough warehouse where I can fly drones. I can create like a room that doesn't have any RF interference, and then I can do like absolute zero sort of baseline. Right now, when I train any of these models, I've got all the interference of my environment as my baseline. It'd be really cool to be able to train a model with an absolute zero baseline. Like this is what a clean room looks like, and then this is what it looks like when I step into the room, and that's going to give me way more fidelity. And this is what a hospital looks like, or this is what a busy intersection looks like, that kind of thing. But that would require a lot more funding, I think. Or a like a sensory depredation tank I can stick Nick into and measure, Oh, Dragon, yeah.
Put Dragon in. We got another thing for Nick.
Nick's up for anything though. Is he still in the call?
Yes.
Are you nitpicking? Whatever it takes to prove the text.
I would be a great subject for the non-baseline experiments.
You're offering to be a subject?
Oh, 100%. I'll sign any waiver.
Oh, we should get some waivers. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, I'm generally my guinea pig. My wife Brenda said I need to stop testing these brain things on myself.
I cannot express how valuable my body is for non-baseline experiments.
Where are you based again?
Texas now.
Oh, okay. Not what part of Texas?
Oh, Houston.
Oh, so you're not too far from Matt.
Yeah, 2.5 hours.
Which is by Texas standards, not too far. If that was Europe, that'd be like half the continent.
Yeah, and we'll probably be in Austin in August or September. So working on that with Matt right now. So we'll keep you posted.
Awesome. Yeah, I still have a lot to do with the seed to provide non-baseline data with the seed itself. So looking forward towards that, giving you guys some data from using that.
Yeah, cool.
From everything from heart rate to breath rate to gamma, beta, alpha waves from the brain, all that. I got beautiful data for that.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're excited to explore that. Yeah. I'm not. What I'm not trying to do is do anything dangerous for you guys. Like, I'm not going to stick Nick in a bathtub and monitor his heart rate or anything, unless he wants to. But but there's a lot we can discover and we can see.
Yeah, because a lot of my body just it's outside of the realm of an average doctor or so
Okay.
it'd be amazing. Yeah. To collect
Yeah.
data on
Hey, Rube.
Well,
question, Rube.
Yeah.
When experimenting with so we talked the other day about 40 hertz being good for those with either dementia or Alzheimer's. While looking and exploring, what is a sort of eye safety goggles way approach of it? Meaning, where I'm going and what the question is intended for is you can experiment in a lot of different ways, but what are some
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I'll speak more plainly. How do you know this isn't going to fry your brain? And how do you, and if there's an indication of something that's going to fry your brain, what is the off button? Right. So let's say worst case scenario planning here for a moment. I've connected my ESP32. I'm doing a 40 hertz light in my face, and all of a sudden I discover I have epilepsy. I don't, but maybe I invoke some latent capability I didn't know I had, and to the negative. Now, what I've done in my scenario is I put in fail safes. The fail safes are basically it shuts off if there's any indication that there's a problem, and it doesn't run for more than a certain amount of time regardless. And so it's looking at different independent signals that might indicate that there's a problem, and then I've got separate systems that can separately shut it off. So I've got the core, which is the ESP32 generally, that's the timing device. And then I've got secondary, monitors that are looking at my heartbeats or my brain waves or whatever. And all those things are feeding. And so there's multiple points of sort of, it can stop really quickly. Now, that is probably not optimal. My best scenario, to be honest, would be to have medical oversight. Like, I need to have Dr. Mark Allen handy, and he should be providing me the oversight while I do it. That's going to be the safest. So I think the answer is don't do it by yourself.
Okay.
There's a lot of rules that are unwritten rules when it comes to computer brain interfaces.
No, I need to shut everything. When are they doing it? Okay,
Oh, sorry, guys. We're glad we're getting some.
Your mic is open, Vlad.
All right, I muted him. Sorry, go ahead. And I think Rory had a question too.
Yeah, if that's okay, while I have you. So I got my seed. I've been working on a project, just on a little experimentation to see what I can do with the seed device. And I've created an app that basically is designed to monitor fermentation. So I built that. Yeah. So the thesis is if I could take BME280 sensors and have one inside the vessel and one outside, I can get some delta on like humidity, temperature. And then I've created a kind of a simulator that takes some data. I have a kind of a presentation I can do later, but that takes a pretty interesting model to look at how a ferment would evolve over like a 21-day period. And it has kind of what good looks like, what a slower ferment looks like, what a stalled ferment looks like. And it's looking at signals coming from the vessel and then kind of making a calculation based on what it should look like based on prediction of that's calculated based on the ingredients in the jar. And then it's like learning and kind of adjusting based on what's actually happening in the ferment and then surfacing those signals in an interface. I have cloud on top of it doing interpretation and inference based on that state and time daily. And then giving the user kind of like basically taking the data and using storytelling to talk about what's happening as the ferment evolves. So I've taken a couple cogs that exist and have rebuilt one specifically for this model. And I'm just curious, like I'm pretty close to like, I guess, deployment readiness. I have the did a bit of magic to get the seed to connect to cloud through MCP, but I got that hooked up. And now from a deployment perspective, it doesn't seem like I can push a cog directly to the device. So I'm just curious, like what's the process, right, to get this actually live? Because it looks like I have to pull from the marketplace, but if I can get directly to the device, I don't know if that's kind of like a
Yeah,
process.
there is access to the directly to the device depending on what you're trying to do, and device specific things would generally involve having the need to sort of interact directly with the ESP32 compute cores, right? Either through the wireless information that's flowing to it, or timing related activities. Like I need to have direct, for like a heartbeat monitor or something, I might need exact timing. But for a lot of things, you can probably offload that to a secondary system. That could be like your laptop or a computer or whatever. But you've created BeerBot. Is that essentially what
It's kind of like that. I mean, the thesis is like there's some pretty sophisticated devices that exist already. So the thesis is operating on like, are there enough signals right now that could be interpreted through temperature and humidity, for example, and maybe some vibration, like short of having a pH monitor and all that stuff. So can I cheaply like get the same result from a ferment that's in a vessel that's a kind of a standard size? There's hedge space in the vessel, and that's kind of the place where we're processing a lot of the data, because that's where the delta pressure and temperature changes as the ferment evolves. So it's kind of like, is there a cheap way to use some inference and a predictive model that can get us the same result?
Here's what I do. The first thing I do is I fake it, right? I get the data that I think I need. Then I synthesize that data in various forms using a kind of representation of what I think the data needs to look like. And then once I have a kind of general idea, and the information's real in the sense that I'm using, valid forms of whatever data, but it's not real in the sense that I'm not collecting it from the thing itself. Once I've got that simulation or that set up, then what I do is then I sort of judge or guide that based on other sensors that collects the similar or data from the real source.
Yeah.
At which point the two sort of, you're going to learn things that you just don't see, and things sometimes behave differently in the real world than they do in a simulated world. And then at which point generally you fix those little inconsistencies and you've got the thing. So if you can generally fake it, you can pretty much make it.
Yeah, so it's funny you said that. So I do have a full simulator running. I got some data and like models based on like what a ferment looks like. I was able to find that. So now I have a simulator running, and then I have a bridge to the simulator. So right now I have a fully working interface. Like it's fully working. I just need to wire it to the seed, and then I can get that learning happening on what happens in the real world. But right now I can show a dashboard of a simulator, the predicted outcome, flags that are happening through it. Like it's fully built out, and I've designed it so I can just swap to the seed once I can figure out how to connect through the cog.
Send us a note. We'll help you get set up. We love these sorts of things. And
yeah, it's pretty exciting for me.
Yeah, send a note just to support@cognitum.one, and we'll either
there is a
I'll
cogs
bug Dragon
repo.
or Martin to walk you through it.
Yeah, if you guys are
there is
curious.
already public cogs repo, so and you can fork it and submit a pull request with a new cog to the repo, and then we can take a look at that.
Hey,
Okay, who's talking there, Vlad?
Yeah, Rory, could you send me contact info, because we do a lot of stuff with AI and fermentation. I just wanna maybe show you something.
Can you guys see my screen, by the way?
So you're not just making beer, you're making kimchi and other sauerkraut. So you're using fermentation for all kinds of things.
Yeah, so here's the model now, right? This is actually model data based on 21 days sampling. I reduced how many times it checks it, but there's stuff happening here. And what's cool is so the recipes are parked. We're getting it's really prescriptive. So it's it's going to help someone understand if exactly what's supposed to happen, what ingredients have what sugar, how it contributes to the actual ferment. And then this is a prediction that's coming from the data. And then it's predicting that score and then looking at the actual sensor data coming back. So if this is supposed to be fast and healthy and I'm seeing different activity levels that don't indicate that that's happening, it's going to start flagging that. So it's storytelling with the data so a user can adjust, but even just to kind of understand how to go into this with the right ingredients and approach. Prep guide. And I added some calls here where we call in this case, cloud, and it'll give you like a daily bubble as to like what's actually happening. Yeah, it's kind of fun to build so far, but to get it considerably, yeah, go ahead.
Explain the vibration to me for a moment. I get, so you're actually getting the vibration of the culture itself, or
vibration?
Or
the assumption there is that CO2 activity will create a signal, like micro vibrations in the jar. There's also like a burping that's going to happen through an like
bubbles,
a valve that I'll have that will automatically
bubbles,
burp it. So burp event will tell you like it's hit a critical mass. There's stuff I'm still modeling around, like what the actual condition in the jar can give me signal wise, that and I can then correlate to what that traditionally would look like in a healthy ferment or whatever, a longer term ferment.
Yeah.
Two questions, Rory. Is this the same? Is this along the track of probiotics and prebiotics? Is it similar in that vein?
So think about it this way. There's a lot of data signals that come from like a probiotic culture growing at a certain rate, even like things like kombucha. There's all this activity that happens, right? Because it's a living organism. Now you can there's a million ways to test that. You can actually like test the culture, grow it. But my thesis is, what if there's a simple signals that are being produced in the jar that we can then deduce what good looks like? So where I'm not sampling the growth rate of the culture of bacteria, I know when that happens, it produces a certain level of CO2. Over time, as it matures, that CO2 production changes. The humidity that's created changes, right? So it's like kind of inspired by Rube, like a lot of stuff Rube shows us, where we're solving something that's been solved, but at a higher level of complexity with more expensive devices, even though with inference and cheaper sensors, we can get to that same result. So that's kind of what I was like, let me test that on something that I know is a process that has a life cycle that I do in my home that has active signals. Like I've had jars explode on me, right? So I know there's peak things that happen in a ferment that can give you signals on what's happening without you having to like test pH, like try to grow the bacteria culture yourself, look for density. There's just like cheaper ways to get it. So that's why I kind of built the design. I built the model. I've created a bridge so that when I got the seed, I guess I got ahead. I was excited about the seed coming. So I built everything in place with simulated data to kind of get all this sorted. So when I connect to the device, that will have my model. It'll have actual data. I can look at the delta and see what the baseline is versus what's really happening in the jar, and then kind of tune. I wanted to get pretty far ahead because you need a lot of ferments to get a good data set, right? Like, ferments are finite.
Do you know how during the pandemic there was a shortage of alcohol, and then
it was part
a
of
lot
that.
of the breweries were making alcohol using their systems to make the hand sanitizer. Could this also track into area of creating penicillin?
I have no idea yet. I know I'm already in a rabbit hole, so let me see if my carrots can be firm and tangy, and then we can go to solving some other problems.
Rory, just few like hints for you, because I will just now understand what you do. You want to put sensors at different levels, like the same sensor at different levels of your vessel, like at the bottom, at the mid, and at the head. Also, the really things people like, that's a public information, I guess I'm not disclosing much. What people like really monitoring now is the oxygen levels and the clarity, like, so you need some kind of sensor there. So the one for clarity, I think it's expensive. It's called OD600. It's like a little like laser thing, from what I'm understanding. It just shoots laser. And the last thing, if your vessel did not explode, it means your fermentation is not performing as maximum as it could be.
Yeah, listen, I don't know if you know Crown Royale. I had a Crown Royale bottle explode on me.
Yeah,
and
that's
like
what
the biggest blast I've ever
everybody's
seen.
doing. You do not want your vessel to explode, right? But you also don't want it explode either. So you want to be like on the verge of explosion. That's the maximum like production. Like, so if it's not on the verge of explosion, it means like you could do better.
Yeah, I'm hoping like a little water valve. I forget the official term, but it's like you see it a lot of fermentation. It has a water bubble in there, and it lets
pressure valve. There is a on pressure valve. You can put when the certain pressure is reached, it will release the pressure, like on the water heaters.
Yeah, but it's more complicated because you want to control the parameters, because it's an exponential process. Like, so the valve's not going to help because it's basically like little bit step, like it will double or like increase your thing to like 10 times, like, so it's either like not performing, but if you just nudge it like a little bit towards higher performance, it will increase like by 10 times and it will explode. So you want to like have a model that understands like the fermentation process. Then.
Yeah. So
that's all good
stuff. So we have explosion like every like once a month or something.
Jeez. Yeah.
Have you experimented with any enzymes?
Okay.
Sorry, was that Don?
I don't know if this could help you in any way, but you can like adjust the rate of reactions in fermentation using enzymes probably.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm trying to do is look at what so building different simulators. There's a variable that calculates what there's an ingredients list, right? So if you look at what each ingredient adds from a sugar perspective, that's a variable that we're putting in. See, I'm trying to get at it with cheap signals, right? Because I can get a pH meter, I can get oxygen sensors, I can get things like that are going to be more specific. But I'm trying to come at it at a different way. So I know that there's going to be some gaps in the actual fidelity as to specifically what's happening in the ferment. And that's where I hope a feedback loop between the human kind of giving back, I guess it'll be more qualitative feedback on the batch, that we can hopefully close that gap without having to add extra hardware,
Keep in mind, you're also once you have real data, the first thing you're going to want to do is train a model. And one of the things a lot of folks skip is the sort of train baseline model. So you can kind of wing it on real streaming data, but if it truly needs to learn and understand, each of these recipes basically needs to have its own little model that's been trained to understand those, and then that makes it transferable. So then your recipe essentially is a tiny little neural net of sorts, vector neural style, that then can be applied. And so if you're looking to do the Hawaiian sauerkraut, it'll know what the optimal model looks like for Hawaiian sauerkraut, and then it can adapt and adjust and infer based on that model. Otherwise, you're just basically doing signal processing.
Yeah, and that's kind of the infinite rabbit hole, because then I would have to get specific, and that's a challenge I'm trying to figure out, how to fake versus get to real data, or how far down I continue to follow that, because then there's an infinite, there's not a set of recipes necessarily. This is a creative pursuit for a lot of people where they combine and fuse and experiment. So we'll try to figure out how much is it helping them kind of anticipate and be prepared for a good ferment based on them experimenting with a brand new set of variables, the recipes, whatever. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, man. And it would be great if I can get some support, just kind of getting the cog connected.
Yeah, we can totally. This is 100% up our alley. And as Dominic and others have pointed out, this is applicable to a whole variety of other things that you're going to cook up, whether it's medicine or food or whatever.
Yeah, I suspect that, right? So it's kind of fun and something I can stress test in my own house in our next ferment. But I could see it being kind of a bit more universally applicable to the concept of fermenting and anything that creates these signals, right, in a process.
Yeah, we could
Yes,
get
with enzymes. You can introduce a lot of different. You can control a lot of different variables of the reaction.
Yeah. And I'm building it where it's kind of got the architecture. We can swap out the kind of prediction model and it's a fully simulated base now. So the reason why I ran pretty hard on building the simulator and adding all these kind of I guess vectors or variables is that I want it to be fully ready for when the device comes in, so I can hit the ground running. See what's really going on.
Amazing. We packed this thing in the back of an RV and we'll call it Breaking AI, the TV show.
Nice.
Take it to Austin for a little road trip. So Rube, do I reach out to what do I do next? Just so I know my next steps.
Yeah, reach out to us. We're we love to tinker. and you found a really interesting thing to tinker with, we can help you make it real. Just shoot us a message, email or WhatsApp or whatever, and one of us will help take it from simulated to real. What we'll need is like, if you got sensors, plug them in.
I'm gonna
get some
be,
real.
or I'm like, I literally got them in my cart on Alibaba. I'm just making sure I'm not getting something like shady. So it'll be two sensors. It'll be sharing some circuitry on the seed, I think, from what I've seen wiring wise. But I have that all defined as well. I basically have a whole document to hand you guys over on just the definition and the cog and all that stuff. So
There's one thing I would suggest, and this is
yeah,
my hack. So you guys can't see my work desk and work area beside my computer here, but what I use is the Gemini video option. So I
yeah,
take I take my camera, and then I put it on a little stand that's next to my work desk, and it sits above it. And then
yeah,
as I'm working, I'm like going full like Tony Stark, and I'm asking, where do I solder this? Where do I plug this in?
really.
What do I do there? And it's guiding me in real time. And then when something doesn't work, the green light doesn't turn on, or whatever it is, it'll tell me why. And generally speaking, I'm able to solve most of my problems on the fly. But yeah, the video mode in Gemini is awesome. It'll
Okay.
converse.
Yeah, because I used the Gemini to generate an image, a schematic to wired, and it was pretty messed up. But it didn't help me, but I'll try
Yeah,
it. Yeah, I have no
if
idea
it
on the hardware piece. This will be like a new muscle for me, like at this level
yeah
anyway.
there's wherever it was, the video mode for Gemini camera or whatever. And yeah, great. I can't.
Cool.
It's because it sees. It doesn't just you can talk and it can see what you're doing.
So
Nice.
I have an AI versus human question, Rube. So if Rory, I'll include you in the question, Rory.
Sure.
Rory is creating the system, and I think I know the answer. The answer is consistency, I believe. But if Rory is creating the system where he can predict and also predict and influence the fermentation of sauerkraut or kimchi, or he had the opportunity to go sit with a 90-year-old person that has been making kimchi for 50 years and can give him all the secrets and all the nuances of how to do it right without technology. What's the intentionality of building the system that Rory is doing? Is it to get that 90-year-old worth of information? Or is it the consistency, or is it both?
Yeah, it'll be tough because like there's a combination. You want to sit with a 90-year-old every single time.
Yeah.
It's tough for human beings though, because we are often very qualitative. Like when I taste this thing, I'm gonna try to correlate what it predicted it was gonna taste like. For example, like some of the buckets are like easier, right? Like is it sour, tangy, is it crunchy? Those are kind of like things that you can at least bucket on a five, like 1 to 5 scale. And then you can get closer qualitatively when I tell it, hey, yeah, you're right, it's crunchy or something like that. But we're a moving target, right? So how do I like see what's actually happening in a ferment from a data perspective that can help me better understand why did it end up being like more tank? Like it's helping me be smarter and understand the language of a ferment that I can then put back into kind of make it better, I guess.
To answer your question, you would have to look into a biochemistry textbook and specifically techniques in biochemistry, lab practices, because like I know the equations and how to do the math, but I don't have much experience in the lab with enzymatic reactions. But that's where you would want to look into, and you'll be the god of fermentation.
Yeah, so if to your point, Matt, if you could take like document that 90-year-old's playbook, right? And then try to match it to that textbook definition of what actually happens based on timeline, ingredients, and environment, then you would get the thing that you get the data model for what she knows and has developed over probably 75 years or 80 if she started young. That's my theory anyway.
don't know if
you
have data
you
model.
know what you're describing is the fundamental sort of challenge between art and science, right? You can you can get a computer to create a song and it sounds mechanical, right? It technically is fine, but it loses soul. The same goes for baking, right? Baking is the process of creating something using a kind of number of scoops of this and a little bit of that. Now you can do that explicitly by putting exactly the pinpoint amount in, and that's fine. But the way grandma makes it is unique because she's learned what she likes and how to do it, right? So there's always a balance.
She's not
I think.
following recipe every time, and
Exactly.
this fermentation thing, fermenting fruit for rakia. So that's like again experience, something that I learned in years. So you need to collect the experience and then you can codify it maybe. But again, these things still need human experience. So that tasting and a little tweak. Small secrets of the big masters of the cook.
Yeah, the crazy part is too, there's actually something called pickle hand. So the person's actual microbiome on their body contributes to the match, right?
Yeah.
So if you really
The
want to
whole
steal a
feeling,
recipe,
so
you're gonna have to take some of her sweat with you.
Yeah, it has grandma's essence.
Yeah.
We're never going to replace grandma. Like it's just, and that's not the objective. The objective for me is one of discovery. It's being able to see and understand how things work, be able to do things that weren't possible, at least economically possible for. And you mentioned it earlier. It's like a lot of the stuff we're doing is obviously is doable. And people have been doing it, but it was prohibitively expensive, or it was out of reach for most for whatever reason. And now all of a sudden we can take stuff we get on AliExpress and put it together.
Yeah. And that's where I think the ability to inference closes the gap on having to have a sensor that gives you all of that raw data. That's what I'm seeing in the ferment, right? Because you can get some crazy systems, right? I mean, brewers use that, of course they do, right? But you and I are never going to have that stuff in our house. So
yeah.
Could you create a harness, Rube? That way you can check the bubbles and then he can sensor it and you can just visually see it as it's changing colors.
That's exactly why I do the harness. So the harness sits in between the signal. So on one side you've got the raw data, and the raw data is like the temperature, the humidity, the pH, whatever it is that you're sensing, and then that's being fed through the seed or directly, depending on how you want to do it. And at which point, what does it mean? What do I need to do with it? The harness allows me to transform that into something that's meaningful for me as the implementer and the systems that I'm working within, databases and website, and it creates a uniform, a consistent mechanism to handle that intermediary transformation.
Because a lot of it comes down to the smell, but and the taste, obviously. But if you can visualize a majority of it, it's working just by.
Yeah. And there's a rate of change in there that's the key, right? Like the rate of change, the humidity. Humidity is telling you how much moisture is moving, which often means it's coming out of the veggies from the brining process and evaporating. CO2 tells you how much actual organism is being created. They're basically having an orgy in there, right? Like, let's not lie, that's what bubbles are. So I have something called party mode. Party mode tells you, hey, like we're hitting peak time here, right? Slowly is when it starts to mature and starts getting better taste profiles. That smell you get is like that initial party stage, right? You open it, it's like it's not always good. But that's a byproduct of the growth.
It's not quite the ether, like woo.
Yeah. And sometimes the worse it smells, the better that thing's gonna be, right? It's like so I'm like, man, there's signals in there. What the fuck? Let's use something cheap and get it. Yeah, cool. Yeah, thanks for letting me share that. I'm pretty excited about it. The first hardware integration to AI, and that's like it's a whole new other level of joy and pain and pleasure.
Yeah, but this one harness, Rube, will unlock a million things.
For sure.
These all do. Like you guys can see why I'm so excited by this idea.
It's crazy.
yeah, infusing AI into the real world. This, Rory's example is exactly the idea, right? It's like, hey, it's something that I'm interested in. It's something I know enough to be dangerous, and suddenly I can do more than I thought possible. And then it's like, okay, that opens up a rabbit hole. Now that I've done that, can I create penicillin? I don't know. Maybe let's try that next, right? It's like this kind of step-by-step process. Now the penicillin thing could be really freaking dangerous, so don't do that without a bit of oversight. But but you get the idea.
That's self-healing harness mode.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm sure there's a few magic mushrooms.
That's the Rube. That's the Rube Rambo mode. Where you gotta like fix yourself.
Back at somehow we always end up back to psychedelics, but never mind that. All right, well, we're almost out of time. I've got to take off. I hear my kids ready to take off to the lake house for the weekend. If there's any, I'm probably missing stuff. I see a few shout outs. I see Adam's on, my favorite Hungarian or Romanian. I forget which one you identify as. And too bad you didn't get to tell us anything. Hope all is well. What am I forgetting? Is Rob or Nick on? I'm sure I'm forgetting to make some sort of updates. Um, we've got our daily calls. There's something like this happening every day. This is the culminating call of the week, but we are looking for help in things like our marketing activities. We've got a new content strategy we're trying to get off the ground, preferably created by real people, not just random AI creating content for us. Back to artisan, something you would learn is generally better articulated than it is manipulated. And so those are on Tuesdays, and on Wednesdays we've got a web team that's being headed up by Matt, where we're building our various web properties and just building crazy stuff because we can.
How do you
if you're
join the
interested in
Tuesday
being
call?
involved, you know what? I'm going to put it in the chat right now. That's how you join it. I'm sure it's on a website somewhere, but I don't know where that is.
Social media manager. Social media manager. This is my call out. And any volunteers, coordinate
Nick,
with myself or Ann.
should I reach out to you or on marketing?
Yeah, Rube's going to put it in the chat. It's actually Leandro
Okay.
that is the committee chair for that. But volunteers, Nick and Ann Quintera and myself, please.
I haven't put out the call for volunteers, but I will and be ready because that's my wheelhouse and those are my people and everybody's out of work. So I think I can get us plenty.
Yeah, and add me to the list.
And this is our web call. I know this is kind of winging it a little bit, but if you stuck around this long, you probably are interested in helping us. Web. All right, I'm putting both in the Zoom. Oops.
At some point, Rube, I'd like to share what we've been working on for a while with Billboard Bug. There's some really cool stuff that I think some people would enjoy, especially now if we have your help and we can get just sharing basically and seeing if we can help out some people.
Yeah, next week. You're in.
That sounds good.
Oh, I forgot the marketing call, by the way, is on Tuesday at 12 noon. I forgot to include the time and date on this. But actually marketing's 11. Never mind. 11 Eastern. So marketing's 11 Eastern. I'm doing a half-assed job here. 11 Eastern on Tuesday.
Web's an hour later on Wednesday. We're welcome. Come. Bring your opinions, but bring the time to help. Ofer and I have a plan. So, more especially focused on content. So, as Rube was talking about. So, if you're a good blogger, writer, presenter, please come help.
Yeah, and getting our job board out the door, I think.
Yeah, so Thursdays at 3 Eastern for the job board anyone that might be interested in helping out with that. And it's sort of web, you know, all of it's tech, even though it's job board related, you know.
And we have interweavings of other things that are part of our ecosystem, such as education and in-person events, ambassadors, and there's all different ways to help. And ideally, we want to also be able to give back to those who are, you know, signing up and helping by way of to be determined. I won't say it, but yeah.
I think what Matt's saying is we get off topic. That's he's a very polite way to say we go into random rabbit hole because we can.
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate everyone who stuck around for 2 hours on a Friday. This is always the highlight of my week. So till next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Later, guys.
Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you.
Enjoy the lake house.
Bye.